Welcome to the Talent Optimization Podcast, the go-to podcast for CEOs and HR professionals wanting to bridge the gap between the strategy and tactical implementation of talent optimization within their organizations. Through interviews, predictive index, and personal experience, your host, Tracy Shirk, helps you discover the facets of talent optimization from both a CEO and HR perspective to truly create the dream team for your organization. Are you ready? Let's get started.
Orientation and onboarding, another fun topic that we get to chat a little bit about today. And we have with us today Nicole Markos. So Nicole is coming to us with tons and tons of HR experience. And when I asked Nicole specifically what she wanted to share with us, she said, we're not going to talk about number of years, but we do want to know specifically what is in common between being a cop and being an HR professional, and why does that matter when we onboard staff? So Nicole, welcome.
That's a hilarious introduction. So I was a cop in my early years, a police officer, and I've spent many years in HR. And what's in common? People. I prefer the less violent form of police work. While sometimes violence is necessary, it involves getting to know the people in your community and helping them with issues and talking through things and being as diplomatic as possible. So it's really the same thing. It's constantly, putting out fires and dealing with issues and wearing many, many hats, from lawyer to parent to doctor to teacher to referee to so many things. So yes.
Awesome. All of the things. And one of the great things about having Nicole on today is Nicole is going to share with us depth and breadth of, hey, how do we onboard individuals based on the size of the organization, the type of the organization, and the type of position that we're looking at. Nicole is also one of our consultants here at Elevated Talent Consulting. So that just gives you a taste of some of the depth and the breadth of how we specifically serve. And as you're listening specifically into, hey, how do I put myself in that seat when I'm really bringing individuals in? So with that, Nicole, I'm really curious. When you're looking at an effective orientation and onboarding program, how long does it take?
So in my opinion, I think it takes roughly 3 months to effectively onboard someone, but I look at it as 3 months to a year. So I think that every company should try and have a plan of some sort over 90 days. And it's really an opportunity for them to get to know you and for you to get to know them as a company. I think that the first 3 months should be focused on what they do in their job, the culture of the company, how they fit in the culture, how they can bring value, what's in it for them. And then over that next 9 months, I see as, the first 3 months being very important, that it's directed by the business or their business unit. And then the other 9 months is self-directed. So it's really the employee's responsibility to get to know the company. And there can be opportunities that the company provides for the employee to be a part of an onboarding process for those next 9 months. But ultimately, it's like, over this quarter and this quarter, we'd like you to get these tasks done. And I also think when you come back to that employee during that 9-month period, you can learn a lot about the culture of your company over getting to know that employee, because they're onboarding over a 9-month period and they're getting to know the company. And I feel like it's a great sort of sense check for the business to see how you're doing and if it's working.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know the effectiveness of onboarding and retention and retaining those key staff. We have, listeners that are in the construction industry. We have listeners that are in the banking industry. We have listeners that are in education, K-12, really all over the spectrum. So what is most important about ensuring that onboarding really matches the industry that you're in, and how does that differ based on different industries?
Yeah. So I think of, for example, the construction industry. Typically day one, nobody wants to even do paperwork. They just want them to get out and start working. And I think that it makes sense for the business. And sometimes there's a drastic business need to just get someone out and get them going. I think that in my experience, it's beneficial if the leaders of the business, the foreman, the owners, depending on the size of the company, maybe, meets that employee out in the field or sets up sort of a lunch and learn for new employees. Maybe goes by the job site and gets to know them. Just that special touch. I just talked to someone today about a job and he was like, are you just going to throw me out there or what's going to happen? So I think people are concerned, new people, sometimes they know someone, sometimes they don't, but they're going to a new environment and they want to know that they're going to be set up for success. And so it's creating this culture of learning, even if it is on a construction site or a concrete site. I think of, what were the other two you had mentioned, the schools?
Yep. Education, banking, professional services.
Yeah. So I think that maintaining, as we talked about before, a 3-month onboarding program is really critical, even in businesses, like I said, like construction, being able to provide opportunities for them to learn. We do something like a skills check, like in a construction industry, where we hire them potentially at a lower rate. And then we do a skills check after 3 months or during that 30, 60, 90 days so that we can assess their skills and teach some things that they're missing and ultimately, give them a raise as they're learning, which is important to a lot of people. In the professional world, in an office setting, it's a lot easier to do sort of a strategic onboarding program because usually people are at their desks. Now, with people working from home, it's been a bit more challenging to onboard people. You have to use resources like videos, Zoom calls. All of your meetings and introductions need to be online, which is okay and doable, especially in the world that we live in right now. I think it's important to have key milestones that the person needs to meet in really especially a professional setting.
Awesome. And I think what's so important here is that we're really cognizant of who it is that we're bringing in. And I think for so many of our listeners, it's really paying attention to, we need to make sure that it works for the business, but we need to make sure that it works for those individuals coming in, especially in those first 30, 60, 90 days, because that great first impression is going to lead all the way through and it impacts the motivation. So what are those key needs that an individual has and ensuring that we're getting that right away? So this fear of, oh my gosh, I don't want to be thrown at the wolves right away because I'm very detail oriented and such a perfectionist. I want to make sure I'm doing this thing right. So let's make sure that we know what the rules of the game are. How are we doing it here, even though I'm bringing a skill set from another type of organization? And who do I need to talk to when something goes wrong? And who do I need to talk to when something goes right?
Yeah, I think it's helpful too is, when we're looking at the learner, the employee, that everybody learns differently. So when I'm creating an onboarding program, I like to make sure that it covers 3 different areas. I like to make sure that there's a kinesthetic portion to it, that they get a hands-on touch. They get to actually do something. There's the auditory learner and there's the tactile learner and the visual learner. And so some people just love to get a ton of data when they start. They just get thrown lots of information. Here's a booklet to read. Some people love videos. So it really helps if you don't focus your onboarding on one specific way you do it. It's like some people, I love to write things. I love to get a little booklet and write at that. I love videos, getting them hands-on, having them meet with people one-to-one, or like I said, over Zoom, making sure that they feel like they fit into the culture, whatever it is.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicole. And so I kind of want to shift now. So we talked about types of organizations and how those differ by industry. So we have 3 different kind of types of employees that we can bring into the organization that I really want to talk about. Our line level employees that are essentially our $15 an hour employees, our expert employees that are not in supervisory level positions, and then we have our supervisory or exempt level positions. How do we want to onboard those different levels and position types inside of an organization?
So I look at our line level employees. What I typically do is assign them a buddy, someone in the business who's knowledgeable, who's been there a while, who's friendly, who usually, depending on who it is, maybe has an A-type personality, gives them just enough information, not too much, but really can be a liaison between the business and the new employee. And something that works great is the person being the buddy also feels like they're contributing to something bigger than just themselves. And I find that it gives them kind of a pep in their step that they've been assigned a buddy. Our professional hourly, they probably need a little bit more time. So our professional hourly, they need just as much time and attention. I often will assign them a higher level buddy. So in organizations, I've done a buddy system that's tiered, obviously, someone that might be one level above the person. And they really can benefit from this as well. And their onboarding is going to be a little bit longer because they're in a professional position. Again, teaching them about the culture and the business, and also giving them the ability to add value at the same time. I look at our exempt. I think of theirs as most of the people that I've onboarded have been exempt and they just want to get on with it. They get really excited. They're hired to do a job. They want to get all the data they can. And a lot of them are self-starters, self-learners. And so I find that sometimes if I prescribe too much to them, they might get bored or annoyed because they're usually pretty driven employees and they just want to get into it. So I often give them a list of people they need to meet with and ask them to go out and find them. And this also helps get them involved in the business. I also think for like professional hourly and sometimes line level, to set up activities for them, like create a scavenger hunt. We preset some one-to-ones with key people over the first month or so. We do lunch and learns for them. I think of our exempt employees as sometimes their onboarding is literally a year long. I know, when I worked for the company in England, one of the largest retailers in the world, and our exempt or executives, sometimes they onboarded for 1 to 2 years, and they would go and do different jobs in the business just to get a true understanding of what the business is about. And so it just depends. It's like parenting, right? You wouldn't have the same approach with each child of learning. Everybody's different.
Awesome. Such great insight into what that looks like. And we always like to close out our podcast with what is one actionable takeaway for HR and what's one actionable takeaway for executives. I know I have mine from these and I love listening and going, okay, what's that one key thing?
I think for HR, especially in 2021, to be as creative as possible when you're creating an onboarding program. It's so different than it was 10 or 20 years ago, but especially right now, to really engage the people in your work groups and find out what you think people need. But be creative. Don't just let it be one way to do things, one way to onboard. Try and create a few different ways to do it because all your audience is different. So that's the key takeaway for HR. And the key takeaway for an executive would be get out. People have lost so much personal touch just because of what's happened in COVID. I know we just send people a video now to onboard them because they're out in the field. And I just think about if you have the ability to create a relationship with a new hire or even your managers, delegate that to them, even your directors, have a Zoom call with a new hire. Just have a chat with them and talk to them. It could even be 15 minutes. And that emotional loyalty that you create up front will cover a multitude of sins. I always say that to people. I'm like, if you can do the work up front to create emotional loyalty with your people, they will stay with you, they will love you, they will work hard, and they will put all they have towards the energy of your business. So just a little bit of effort up front has long-term rewards.
Awesome, Nicole. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're looking to find more out about us, you can find us at elevatedtalentconsulting.com. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Talent Optimization Podcast. You'll find more tools and resources for CEOs and HR professionals looking to bridge the strategies versus implementation gap of talent optimization at elevatedtalentconsulting.com. We've also created a free, valuable resource for you to begin bridging the gap called the Talent Optimization Foundation Membership Program. You can access it for free at elevatedtalentconsulting.com/foundation. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode to learn more about talent optimization and creating a dream team for your organization.